Good morning. AKCN News here this morning. I'm Jordan. This is my co-host Michael. We are starting off with a story about 42 missing children after two bears were spotted coming out of the woods. Local witnesses say they saw a bald man fleeing the scene.
That's a frightening story, Jordan. I hope they can get to the bottom of that.
Absolutely.
In other news, all sailing routes have been postponed, specifically those headed to Tarshish. Local prophet Jonah has been missing for 3 days. Sailors are shaken up, saying they saw a large sea creature swallow him up.
Sounds like a fishy tale to me.
Indeed.
In other news, sports with Isabel.
Where am I? Oh, thanks guys. I'm currently at the racetrack at the Downs, where famous Ben-Hur is currently practicing for his race on Saturday. I have also heard that Elijah is entered the race without a horse. We'll see how that ends up. Now to Michael with weather.
Thanks, Isabel. Weather's looking great out here. Back to you guys in the studio.
Is that a garden hose, Micah? Is there someone out there spraying you? Well, I certainly hope you're okay.
Absolutely. And we'll be right back for this week's Bible lesson after a break for worship.
Here is our King. 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 Here is our love. Here is our God who's come to bring us back to Him. He is the one. He is Jesus. Here is our King. Here is our love. Here is our God who's come to bring us back to Him. He is the one. He is Jesus. Here is our King. Here is our love. Here is our God.
Hey Anchor Kids, this week's lesson comes to us out of Acts, and it's talking about the beginning of the early church. Now, many of the early Christians that were living in Jerusalem at the beginning of the church were receiving persecution and being treated badly by the Jews that surrounded them. And many of the Christians decided they were going to pick up their things and move to other places to avoid this persecution. And many of those Christians moved to places like Antioch, which is in today's modern day Turkey. And the Jerusalem church decided they wanted to send Barnabas up to Antioch because the church was growing in Antioch, and they wanted Barnabas to teach and encourage the believers there. But when Barnabas got to Antioch, the results he saw from the spread of the gospel were so profound that he needed help. So he went and he found Paul and brought him from Tarsus to help him in Antioch. And while they were there, the Judean church fell in need, and they needed food as they had come under famine. And so Paul, who was then Saul, and Barnabas decided to encourage the believers in Antioch to gather everything they could so they could donate it to the church in Judea. And they did just that. And Paul and Barnabas delivered those things to the Judean church. Now here's the lesson in all of this. Last week we discussed that the church should come together to pray for those who are in need. And we shouldn't just pray, but we should consider how we ourselves can give if we have those resources. So even now, kids, think about ways that you can be generous to those around you. We'll see you next time. Until then, have a good week.